So I do want to ask, because Killer Mike is my buddy. He
Okay.
asked me at one point to mentor him.
Did he mean it?
No.
I haven't heard from him since, and we're heading into 2 years. But I'm confident he's on his way.
Okay.
He just got to be patient. But the last time I did reach out to him was around this issue, and and he unfortunately told me to leave him alone and to lose his number. But at the time when I still had his number, and for the record, whenever anyone tells me that, that's it. They'll never hear from me again. I am not a stalker. The moment you say leave me alone, that's it. So I haven't contacted him since I erased the number, but I did text him to ask if he had said anything about Cop City.
He has not.
No.
And he probably won't. It's not good for his business. He is deeply associated with Republican Governor Brian Kemp. He, says it, period, that Brian Kemp is good for his business. He believed even during the last governor's election, he was not coming out, in favor of Stacey Abrams and was pretty much just saying, hey, Kemp is doing a better job at this than her. So I won't be surprised if he wins. Well, of course, he wanted him to win. And what's amazing to me about Killer Mike is that I saw him show up at Atlanta City Hall and request an audience with the mayor to speak with him when there was the question of an ordinance that was being introduced to curtail some of the nightlife in the city of Atlanta proper. However, he has never spoken about Cop City. He never even stood with us in support of closing the Atlanta City Detention Center, which is one of those things that was built specifically for poor Black people leading up to the 1996 Olympics so that the city of Atlanta could clean up the streets for the Olympic Committee and for the Olympic Games. Literally, you had officers walking around in the city of Atlanta with pre-printed tickets that said Black male homeless, and they would write them to people, put them in jail. That jail was full during the Olympics. And afterward, once people finally began to get processed, what was found was that most of the people who were there were simply there for houselessness. They did not have a permanent residence, but it was against poor Black people, right? Then you fast forward years later and the city detention center is still open, but at any given time, that jail would probably house 50 people max. And they were literally.
First of all, that's the dictator way, though. That's the dictator way. When you have an event, the houselessness get rounded up, the thugs, whoever else get rounded up, put in jail. So the events
and they took down the Confederate flag. They took down the Confederate flag for the
temporarily
for that time, only for that time, though, right? Only for that time. And so now you fast forward all these years later, when we were in the Communities Over Cages Coalition fighting against the closing of fighting for the closing of ACDC, where there might have been 50 people in that jail on any given night simply because they couldn't afford their bail, right? So it became known as a pauper's prison because people were there really because of money. They could not afford bail, and they could be in there on a misdemeanor, but they couldn't afford bail. So they sat there. And when we came together to say, close this shit down, do something else with this. You have a huge houseless population. You just closed the facility at Peachtree and Pine Streets, where many of them could go for shelter. You are contributing to this problem. It's up to you to remedy this issue. The city of Atlanta and Mayor Andre Dickens, who was the person who proposed the ordinance or resolution to close the Atlanta City Detention Center. Now you got him backtracking now that he's the mayor named Dre. And instead of closing that facility, you are now pushing for a partnership.
Is that how he's doing it?
With Sheriff
the mayor named Dre?
Absolutely. Look, now, midnight basketball is extremely important to Dre, all right? Because he want these children balling. He want to
oh my God, midnight basketball. How long are we going to do this? This is like my childhood. They still doing this?
With his initials on them. He wants them to know now that he's something like a millionaire up in here. But call me Dre, because I'm going to solve all your problems, Black people, by midnight basketball. Oh, and that $20 million that I was going to put into childcare has yet to materialize. So yeah, figure out how to take care of your children yourself.
I don't know. It's going to be hard for me to get Killer Mike back on your team if he won't. If I've been told not to text him anymore and we can't communicate.
You know,
I did my best, but
what I will say is that I truly, I don't care for him to be on my team, because anybody who's a real one who I want on my team ain't gonna recognize him no way. Anybody who I want on my team is not gonna roll with him because they've already seen the shucking and jiving. They have seen the first class cooning that he did right after Rayshard Brooks was murdered. There is nobody that I associate with or want to be associated with who's checking for him. Like, nobody's checking for that dude, I promise you.